Fear and Hunger has a pretty innovative limb damage system. If you destroy a limb in battle, it changes the behavior of the enemy on the map, and it keeps that limb destroyed if you fight it again. The thing is, it's also buggy beyond belief. Not just you can destroy this one guy's arm so hard it explodes another guy's arm in a different room, but also to the point it constantly crashes the game editor. People have been inspired to make games like Fear and Hunger, including me, I'm working on one, so I dug into how Miro actually built this. I'm gonna show you his approach, why you should never do it this way, and the plugin I wrote that'll save you literally hundreds of hours of work. Who knows, maybe Miro will find this plugin and realize he can cut the dev time of the next Termina update in half. The way Miro wrote his limb system is the same as his approach to the Scarab's melting weapon script. Brute force. Every single enemy in the entire game is its own troop. Every single limb in every single troop has its own switch. By my count, this results in 510 flags just for enemy limb tracking, all of which have to be manually set per limb, per troop, per enemy, unerringly by hand with 0 mistakes. RPG Maker MV has a GameStop's working limit of 5,000 switches. Factoring in the various story switches, if Miro added in a new area with roughly 50 new enemies, the sheer number of switches would crash the game on launch. But tracking limbs with switches is only the first half of getting this gameplay concept to work. Every single troop has a script that runs at the end of turn. It checks which limbs have been defeated and sets certain switches to on to track that. That way defeating a limb on an extra turn doesn't get saved. The battle script that updates destroyed limbs is end of turn, not end of extra turn. This is also why you can stab this lizard man so hard his buddy's legs explode. He had to input every single one of these by hand and he made a few mistakes. For the map stuff, every single enemy has at least 7 event pages that are 90% copy-pasted because they all run the same code related to starting battles and game over sequences. They switch to them based on which switches are set. For instance, if both leg switches are set, it switches to the event page with a condition guard 1 left leg and guard 1 right leg equals on. It's identical to the other event pages, but the enemy graphic and movement speed are changed. And he had to set each of these event pages to run off switches that were set per limb, per troop, and per enemy event. This took hundreds of hours to set up. And honestly, that's probably the best approach you can do for this if you have 0 programming knowledge and are working in RPG Maker MV. Genuinely. You're trying to force the engine to do something it can't and have to do so without changing the engine. The thing is, the correct solution is to change the engine with a plugin, which Miro didn't know how to do, but I do. So I did. You see, I have a hobby of writing evil, unreadable code because I think it's funny to make up other programmers in my head who have to read this later and get mad at me for it, but sometimes I can use this skill to produce good code instead. And so, I'd like to unveil the Persistent State plugin I wrote. You see, death in RPG Maker MV is a state. It's state 1. The engine applies state 1 to an enemy when its HP hits 0. Since each limb is an enemy and death is a state, I just track which enemies have what states when a battle ends. The way to implement this plugin is pretty simple. You use this script call before starting a normal battle. The plugin automatically identifies which enemy on which map you're fighting, stores their states when the battle ends, and reapplies them when you fight that enemy again. And that's it. That's the whole process for making it work. That's the entire setup. Because data gets written and stored at the start and end of battles rather than end of turn, this instantly and immediately fixes every possible glitch caused by stuff like extra turns. Because it records data dynamically off map event data, you will never have to worry about manually inputting switches to record anything. You set it, you forget it, it's done. Never think about it again. No glitches to worry about. You could literally mod this plugin into Fear and Hunger and fix most of the bugs in under an hour. You wouldn't even need to mess with the switches or in-battle scripts, it's just compatible. Well, actually you need to do one extra step. By default, this remembers every state. If you're making your own clone of Fear and Hunger, or modding the real one, you might only want to store death. Well, there's a whitelist system included. You can set it to only remember the dead state, and now you have an exact copy of Fear and Hunger's limb mechanics without the glitches in 15 seconds instead of 1500 hours. There's also a blacklist option if you want enemies to always lose certain states after battle, like the stun from On Guard. This does not handle map events changing their behavior and appearance for you, but it does give you the tools for that. After calling the battle start, you can use an if script call with has persistent state and a state ID. For instance, you can check if either leg was dead and use that to set a self switch and change the event pages to something that moves slower and has a limp. All the data's there and you can do whatever you want with it. For my own game, I hooked it up to a real-time blood loss system to simulate the time between arterial injuries to unconsciousness and death. The plugin also has functions to manually add or remove states, so you can make a bear trap that destroys both legs or any other mechanic you could imagine from Fear and Hunger. Anyway, link for the plugin is in the description. If you ever thought about making a Fear and Hunger inspired game, or any RPG Maker game where what statuses you apply in battles stay between battles, go download it right now and save yourself hundreds of hours of doing things the hard way.